All right. Well, I'm excited, guys. Adam talked to me about this a couple months back, and then he called me yesterday and was like, "Hey, you still good for tomorrow?" And I was like, "I can be." So, if anything should like encourage you guys, I'm not like the AI engineer in my job. This is just something I started doing kind of on my own. And so you guys can learn if you want to. So, and what's cool is we have a small group. So please feel free to I don't want to just stand up here and talk the whole time. We will have Q&A at the end. So, we'll save some questions for then. But if you've got a burning question, please raise your hand. And I'll probably ask questions too. So to start, a year from now, two versions of you exist. One is watching AI reshape your industry, and you're wondering when you'll have time to learn. Maybe you're seeing people do really cool things and just, how do I do that? The other is using AI infrastructure, using AI to automate the boring parts of their job, do their job more effectively, maybe even do some of the things in your life, personal things, so that you can spend more time doing the things that really make you come alive, right? Or doing the things that make you come alive better. And that's why I am passionate about this, is I think just with any technology, you can use it for good or bad. And I see this as an opportunity to have more time to go fishing, right? Or have more time to do stuff like this. So that's kind of the why here. So, and we're all at this starting point today. So before we get into this, I want you to ask yourself, where are you in this scale, right? Between skeptic, never tried it, to builder, where you're building apps, you're building agents with AI. And what I will say is, most people are probably around right here, right? Where it's I'm a tourist, I've played with it a little bit, made some fun images on ChatGPT, I've had it write some emails. Maybe you have Gemini that you use for work if you use Google or Copilot. Very few people are on this other side. So the goal today is to get you at least one level up from where you are at. Am I correct to assume that we're all around this stage? Does anyone feel like they're further over here? Yeah? Awesome.
What would constitute being further over there?
Well, maybe we can ask, how are you guys using AI? Raise your hand. If you're anywhere beyond tourist. Yeah.
So what I'm doing is I'll get a phone call from I own a moving company, so I'll get a phone call from someone, hey, I need to move from here to here, and I'll put the addresses in, and I'll say, this is, rent me a U-Haul truck, this is how many square footage it is, and AI will give me a full-on quote that I can just turn around and download the PDF and send it to them.
So
nice.
Are you saying AI basically if you ask a computer a question?
That's just how I've integrated it with my work.
So if I hop in Google.
Yeah.
So I do financial crimes.
Yeah.
And it's moving a lot into AI, so I'm trying to learn more about it. And if I am looking at somebody's check transactions, they get a check from Happiness LLC. I don't know anything about that business, and I say, what is Happiness LLC out of Utah? And then it pops up here. Is that AI?
Where it depends on where you're asking it, right? So I would say if you're typing that into Claude or Anthropic or any of these models saying who is that? That would be using AI, because it's then using AI to go and do search.
Because I do
Yeah. So if you use like Gemini's search tool, they have a really good research tool where instead of just like getting the search results and you manually clicking through, it could go and view basically a bunch of sources, hundreds, thousands of sources.
Like, here's where we got this source. Is that?
Yeah.
'Cause
So
I'm really AI stupid, so I'm like, is that AI? Am I using it? Or?
yeah, it depends on, well, that's going to be annoying if we keep having to do that. Okay. To answer your question, like it depends. Like if you are, so if you're in an LLM, which is a large language model, like if you're using Gemini or ChatGPT or Claude and you ask it that question, chances are it's using AI to go and search the web. But I would say that's still, goodness gracious. I would say that's like probably still like between the user and the like tourist. How are you using
I
AI?
work in business intelligence, data
Nice.
engineering, so for Western Governors
Yeah.
University, so we use it for all sorts of metrics.
Nice.
Outliers, etc. I also, optimize code.
Yeah.
Then on a personal level, use it for LDS gospel study.
Yeah.
To enhance, I built a prompt that goes through the living Christ sentence by sentence and gave me scriptures and general conference
Yeah.
talks to read about each sentence so I could dive deeper into the living Christ. And I teach mission prep,
Nice.
and so it's difficult to work with the youth, so I use it to come up.
Yeah.
I use it to come up with activity. I put in a scripture and say, I need an activity that goes with John 3:17,
Yeah.
right? And it gives me here's some things you can do. So but at the other end of the spectrum, and you'll probably go into this, like, I'm trying not to become AI dumb, meaning my creativity goes out the window because I just rely on ChatGPT.
Totally.
To be my creative
Totally.
voice. So.
Yeah. And we'll get into that for sure.
So yeah, I'm kind of around that type area as well as far as the users.
Yeah.
I'm in IT with infrastructure and systems, and so I'll use it a lot for oddball implementations that I almost never do, and be like, give me more information about this very specific, minute detail. And oftentimes I'm corrected because it's wrong, because it's trying to guess things.
Yeah.
And then, but I'm also using it as well for, I'm applying for other jobs and stuff like that. So having it do drafts of cover letters, I'll go through and tweak, makes it super easy for being able to tailor a cover letter or a resume specific to a job description.
Awesome.
And then also I used it to completely go through a business plan, and from start to finish, as far as helping me draft logos, taglines,
Yeah.
what I needed to do to register my LLC, and then actually writing like an actual business plan underneath it, document.
Awesome. That's super cool. So one thing I'll say really quick, I think the best analogy I've heard is that AI is like your own personal intern, right? And you could have a pretty crappy intern, depending on like how much context you give it. So like if you said, hey intern, I want you to work in this library, but you can only access like this bookshelf, right? It's trained on a bunch of knowledge, but the more context you give it, and we'll get into that. So I think a lot of these points we're going to cover. And just to give you guys an idea of what we're going to talk about. So first we'll get into like why this matters. Why does AI matter? Why should you care about it? Where we are now, where it's heading per AI experts, not myself, but other like legit AI researchers. How AI actually works. So I think a lot of people go straight to like, oh, I need to find a better prompt for this. But I found that like learning how it works from first principles helps you understand how to get what you want from it. The tools, so one thing Adam said is just like, there's so much like decision like exhaustion of like, I don't know which tools to use for what, and they're all getting better every day. And some like, so I'll tell you like, as of right now, what are the best tools for which use cases? How to communicate AI. So based on how AI actually works, how can you prompt it to get what you want? And then if we have time, I'll give you guys like a quick demo, and I want to make sure we leave time for questions. Is there anything in this agenda that isn't here where you're like, I really want to know this or that? We good? Okay.
I would say there's downsides. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
go into that.
Yeah, we'll talk about, we have a whole slide on that.
Okay.
So to start, this is like, as of like this week, some of the craziest things that are happening with AI. So a developer made a coding loop that basically is an agent that says, I want, like you give it specifications of what you want and give it a very specific PRD, which is like a product requirement document. And it gives it to an agent that just keeps building and keeps learning from its mistakes. And they turned a $50,000 contract that they would, if they were to hire like a development agency, into $300 in API cost. So like using the AI. So that's a pretty big deal. This one is like kind of fun and interesting, also a little bit scary, is this guy set up a bot that just came out like this last week, like a personal AI bot called Claude Bot. And he's like, hey, go book me a reservation with OpenTable. And it ran into an issue. It was like, I can't access OpenTable. So it went and downloaded 11 Labs, which is like a voice agent. And it cloned his voice and it called the restaurant to make a reservation. And said like, hey, I made a, and this is the whole, you can't really see it, but this is the whole message stream he had with it. So gives you an idea of like kind of where we're at. Couple of quick stats. So per McKinsey, 80% of companies are now using generative AI in some way. Gemini can handle 2,500 pages of context at once. So in like a working session, it can handle about that much memory before it starts. It's kind of like a whiteboard. If you were to like put a bunch of stuff on a whiteboard, eventually you can't read it, right? So it can handle 2,500 pages at once. You can now code an app with like having zero knowledge of coding. And it's really only been like just over 3 years since ChatGPT launched. So kind of gives you an idea like the rate at which things are accelerating. And I think the shift is like, to Jeremy's point, is like, it's kind of gone from like, ask a simple question where it's kind of like a glorified Google to like, give it a task and it gets it done. Granted, I would say it's not, there's a lot of caveats to that, and we'll talk about some of those, but that's kind of where we're going. So, yeah, right now it's kind of like, we're in this age where it's like multi-step tasks without babysitting it. You manage the outputs. Granted, you need to make sure you know, like, have the right prompt. And then researchers are saying like eventually the agents are going to become autonomous, where you can kind of just trust them to go and do what you want them to do. So, like I said earlier, it's like a capable intern that never sleeps, never forgets, and gets better every month, ideally. So what does this mean for us as fathers, husbands, employees? And there are certainly a lot of risks around this. So this is all based off of research. 86% of students used AI last school year. If you have kids in school, you probably are well aware of this. Like, they just go to ChatGPT and ask it a question, which AI hallucinates a lot. So, which means like it will just make stuff up. So that is something to be aware of, is like, and I think we have this inherent trust in AI because everyone talks about it, and it's like people almost see it as like an alternate god, but it is wrong a lot, right? And there's even some like sad cases of kids getting therapy from ChatGPT and ChatGPT giving terrible advice, right? 70% of teachers worry about declining critical thinking because what a lot of people do is they'll outsource their thinking and their decision making to an AI and say, hey, like, I don't know what to do about this, like, tell me what to do. And there's now a bunch of research that the models, at the end of the day, like, these are companies that are trying to make money. So if there is an AI that is telling you hard truths, like, no, that's stupid, like, you should not do that, chances are you aren't going to use that as often. So AI, like, will almost always agree with you. And I've tested this multiple times.
And that's why the church came out and said,
Yeah.
hey, be careful, because it will circumvent revelation.
Yeah.
And tell you what you want to hear.
Totally. Yeah, it should not be used as a replacement for revelation. And so like, that is my like strong warning is like, and I've even like in using it every day, I have to set guardrails for myself. And I've even started like in all of my like context saying like, don't just agree with me. Like if I start to like do this, like stop me. But I also want to like, don't want to rely on the AI to be my guardrail, right? So 27% of AI toy outputs contained inappropriate material. So like there's now toys from China that like use AI where like a kid could talk to it and it will like say something wildly inappropriate. So that's what I would say is the negative side, right? And I think good conversations to have with your kids and family members are like, what AI tools are you using? How do you know if what it tells you is true? And when is it okay to use AI and when isn't it, right? So, and then obviously the positive is like what I said at the beginning. I think if you use it right, then you can enhance your study of the gospel, right? You can work on things faster so you can focus on freeing up your time to do better things, right? Or more meaningful things. So there's a lot of fear around like AI replacing all of us. Even like Elon Musk says that we need to have like universal basic income because we're all it's just gonna be AI and robots working. I disagree with that. I think that we've been here many times with like the internet and coding and software development. There's always this big fear around like, hey, AI is gonna replace all of us. I do think it's a big shift. And I think it's still the same framing as like AI won't replace you, but someone using AI might, right? Hence the reason for having this course today. So that's kind of all the theoretical, the why. I want to get into how it actually works. Before we go into that, any like pressing questions? Thoughts? Okay, we'll keep moving. So this is kind of how AI works. So AI is always just trying to guess the next word. A lot of people think that AI can actually think for itself, but it's actually just a very good prediction machine, right? So like to give you an example of how it works, you could say, given AI, the bank was steep. So a very powerful supercomputer is in the background thinking, okay, is he talking about money or river? Are we talking about deposits, accounts, savings, or are we talking about a river and water and like grading of like a hill? And it's trained on a bunch of memory. So it comes with like its base memory. and it can kind of start to like infer, okay, usually in this context, people are talking about a river, right, and a river bank. But this explains about 80% of why some prompts work and others fail, right? Because AI could still think that you're talking about money in a bank. And if you're trying to write like a fictional story about a riverbank, like that's not what you want. So the more context you give it, the same way you would an intern of saying, hey, I want you to work on this. By the way, this is why we're working on this. Here's some information that might be helpful for this, right? It will make better decisions. But if you give your intern no context, then it's just gonna go try its best. And what I'll say is like AI is very overeager. Like, and because an intern would probably even ask you questions like, wait, I don't understand how to do this. But AI will just be like, well, I don't know, but I'm just gonna do it. Like, so something to keep in mind.
May I make a comment?
Yeah.
So I think the way I explain AI to like family members and to people is imagine a chef that's never tasted food. It knows that salt and baking powder and all that goes together because it's watched every cooking show, it's read every recipe book ever made, but it has never tasted food.
Mm-hmm.
So it knows when you give, like, well, bake, steep, okay, this goes together based on that, but sometimes it's way off because it just knows that. So
Yeah.
I think people just understanding that it's a chef that's never tasted food
That's a great analogy.
and it's read everything ever and watched every movie or video, but it will never know what food tastes like.
Totally. And like it can like seem like it knows because it like will read all of like the Yelp reviews and say like, oh, this was really like tasted so salty or whatever. Like it's trained on like almost all the data that's online and like in books. So like it can start to infer, but like it does not know what, and will never know what food tastes like. The same way it will never know exactly what you're thinking or what like an impression or intuition feels like, right?
It was love, right?
Yeah, love, right? It will study all the love poems, but it does not, it's a machine, right?
And thus the revelation.
Yeah. So a really important thing with AI is context windows. So whenever you use Claude or GPT or Gemini, it has its working memory of how much it can hold at once. And you guys are more technical than I am probably, so you can correct me if I'm wrong. But Claude has about like 500 pages of size of context window. GPT is 1,000. Gemini is around 2,500. That doesn't mean that like Claude's the worst and Gemini's the best. It kind of just depends on like what you're using it for, which we will get to. But when a good like rule of thumb is like if AI forgets something that you said earlier in the conversation, chances are you've like hit the limit. Or if it just starts to like you've noticed like the performance is degrading, chances are the context window is full and you just need to start a new conversation. So that is something to keep in mind is like if you have like a long running conversation, it's going to start to like forget things.
So if you were to like, let's say copy and paste a conversation into a different browser, like I'm thinking like a Google Doc, and then you reference that, or can you reference that and still get some of the old context and kind of reset it and like refer to this, now we have an extra 25 pages to get into.
Yeah, or you can like say, hey, I'm going to continue this in a new conversation, like give me all the relevant context I need to go continue this in a separate ChatGPT conversation. Because there's a lot of like, if you were to just copy and paste, it's just giving you like the conversation, but there is stuff happening on the back end as well, like where it's like making different inferences. So sometimes when you actually prompt it, it will say like, here's how I arrived at this conclusion, but yeah, that it does help. So one setting that changes everything with the outputs you get, and a lot of people don't even touch this, is something called temperature. So you can set different temperatures for the AI models you're using, where like 0 will be very factual and consistent, and 1 is more like creative and unpredictable. So like temperature 0 would be like, the meeting is at 3 p.m. in conference room B. Like, it's just facts. Now, if you're doing like maybe a more creative task or creative writing or brainstorming, it might make sense to bump it up to like 0.8 or 1. It's like the meeting beckons at the mystical hour. Like, you kind of get an idea of like how temperature changes. Honestly, I don't know if I would worry about that too much when you're first starting out, but something to keep in mind. Why AI lies to you. So you can't really see this because the image is too small, but this is something Elon Musk like retweeted from someone. It said like, if Bilbo asked ChatGPT, and it says, after all, goodness, it keeps trying to connect to the Wi-Fi. Says, after all, why not? Why shouldn't I keep it? You're absolutely right. You found it. It's been with you a long while, and it's only natural to feel fond of something that served you so well, especially when someone like Gandalf suddenly seems to want it for himself. So like, that kind of goes back to our earlier point of like, AI doesn't know what's true. It just predicts what text is likely to come next based on patterns. And confident sounding text exists for both facts and fiction. So yeah, I think a good fix is like verify specific claims, especially if you're using it for like work and you're like looking at data. Like, I'll be 100% honest, like AI created this slide. I don't know if that stat is true. So like, because I didn't have time to look it up. So please ignore it. Use low temperature for factual queries, and then use tools like Perplexity that cite, Perplexity is like a deep research AI. Use tools like Perplexity that cite real sources so you can go and verify it. All right. Any questions up to this point about anything we just went over? All good?
How would you set the temperature on a tool like ChatGPT?
Yeah, so usually in like the settings there, you can go in and change the temperature. You can also, I'm trying to think. You might be able to do it in the chat itself. I'm not sure but yeah. Let me follow up with you on that because I need to look at how it's done in certain platforms. All right, so this is, as far as what tools are best, I would stop asking like which is the best overall. It kind of depends on like, what am I trying to do? And what I will say is like, the models have all gotten really good to where like, I basically use one, I use like 2. So, and a lot of it depends on like, are you using Google for work? Then it might make sense to use Gemini. But as of January of this year, these are sort of the undisputed leaders in terms of like which tools are best. So if you're wanting to like do any writing or brainstorming or drafting, my job is like, I'm a marketer. I'm a content director for a tech company. So Claude, I would say, is the best for writing, right? Or any type of creative work. That's not to say that ChatGPT or Gemini is bad, but that one is the best for writing. For research, or if you want like current info, facts, Perplexity or Gemini is the leader for sure. Perplexity that's basically all it does is like search and deep research across the web, and it will cite sources of what you're looking for. To analyze long documents or data, again, this is where like the context window comes in. Gemini, because Gemini can handle so much context, it's probably best for like long PDFs, long documents, and asking it to do specific things. Claude is pretty good as well, but you just hit context windows fairly quickly. For coding, like if you're wanting to build an app or to code a website or whatever, Claude is hands down the best. This presentation is actually not a slide. It's like all custom HTML that Claude made, like in a web browser. So granted, there are some frustrating things with it, but like, and you can kind of tell that it's AI made in some ways, but for working in Google, like if you want to access Gmail, Docs, Sheets, Gemini is pretty good, but like you can also do that in ChatGPT, Claude. All right.
A cool thing you can do with ChatGPT is connect it to your Spotify and then say, hey, I really like this, and I'd like, can you give me 30 more, or build me a playlist based off of these 5.
Yeah.
And it will build you a playlist.
Yeah, that's awesome. I saw a really interesting use case of like, I can't remember what this guy was using it for, but he will like do something in one like Claude or ChatGPT and then take it to all the other models and say like, hey, here's all my research and all my idea, and like create like a council of AI advisors. So there's some.
They all have connector. Well,
Yeah.
He has a bunch of connectors to you name it. So if you want it to help you in Google Drive,
Totally.
or your Google Photos, it'll do that. So.
Yeah, it's and I would say it gets more powerful like when you start to integrate more of like your tools. So yeah, like you can connect your files to it like your Google Docs, and then like for example, you could connect, like one thing I've done is like in Claude, I connected Perplexity, like the research API. That's probably like the next level course that we'll teach. But like in Claude, I can say, hey, go use Perplexity to research this and like tell me what you found, right? So that's probably like level 200, 300, but there's some pretty interesting things you can do there. We kind of went through all of this. But I think the important thing is like the best AI is the one that you'll actually use daily. And I think the one, like what you'll kind of find is like, it's annoying to like switch back and forth between all of these tools. Like to be honest, I mostly use Claude for like everything, and then like some Perplexity, and then like just plug, if I need to use the other tools, I'll kind of like plug them all in. So as far as like the evolution of AI communication goes, the way that you can like, and this is like kind of going back to Jeremy's question, like to just get an idea of like how to make it even better is like, let's say like in my job, I want to like train my AI to understand what makes good writing for like social media. So when I first started using ChatGPT, it'd be like copying and pasting a prompt from Twitter saying, hey, this is like what good writing is, and it just kind of forgets, and it was just okay. You can write a better prompt to say like, you are a world-class social media expert, like giving it a bunch of context on what I write about. Here's some examples of what a good prompt or a good post is. I think and now it's kind of evolved to where you have better context systems where, because the context windows are getting better, like it's sort of about context engineering of knowing like, okay, what does my intern need to know to answer this? And then we're kind of now getting to the point where if you can start to plug in certain tools so that it can go and get the information it needs, it gets better and better. All right, so what time are we at? 11:48, okay. I'll go through this and then we'll save some time for Q&A. But so this is like, a lot of times people will tell ChatGPT or Claude something and not get the answer that they want. So this is kind of a tried and true like prompt structure to get what you want from AI. So you want to give it a role. So you tell it, who should the AI be, right? So an example is you are a senior financial analyst specializing in tech valuations. And you can give it like even more specific role, like in this industry, this is like some of the like expertise that you have. Because then it knows like, okay, based on my training, this is what we're focusing on.
You can even make it a barber.
Yeah,
I mean,
Totally.
It doesn't have to be tech stuff.
yeah,
Act as a barber and I
Totally.
change my hairstyle.
totally. Like I teach elders quorum in my ward, and it's like, I literally gave it like a bunch of information on what elders quorum is and what's the manual? It's like teaching in the Lord's way or something. Like, so like gave it all this context of like, I'm a teacher, here's the way I want to teach. By the way, here's like the makeup of my quorum. Like, here's some of the things that guys are struggling with. And by the way, like, I want to be able to like have inspiration. So like, just give me a rough outline. Like, don't give me the whole thing. Like, so you can really give it a lot of context. Behavior, you can say things like ask clarifying questions before making assumptions, acknowledge when you're uncertain, like don't just make up stuff, which it will still make up stuff even if you say that.
It will make love less? No.
What was that?
It'll make up less if you tell it to not make up stuff?
Yeah, I would say like,
this
if you say like do not hallucinate, only reference like verified facts, it tends to hallucinate less, but it still does.
So when I use it for gospel study, I'll say use LDS.org, use BYU speeches, don't go anywhere other than those two, and it won't. I give it the boundaries,
You limit the sources.
because
that it-
otherwise it's gonna go and grab John DeLynn stuff, and all of a sudden I'm down a rabbit hole. Right, but if you tell it, you give it the boundaries, it'll stay.
Yeah.
And you can behind the scenes already, you can program that in, but that's class 200, so.
Yeah. And then I would give it constraints. So like what should it avoid, which we kind of mentioned, and then an output. Like how do you want your responses formatted, right? Like do you want like bullet points? Do you want like how creative or factual do you want them to be, right? One tool that I found to be really helpful is called WhisperFlow. It's WISPR Flow, where it lets you like, it's like a voice to text, but it like learns your patterns of how you talk. So like if you mention like your company name, a voice to text might mess it up. So it basically just instead of typing all this out, you can just talk and say like, hey, this is what I want, rather than typing. So
Another good thing, use AI, like tell it, help me make a prompt,
yeah,
and it will create the prompt for you.
yeah,
I want to create a prompt for Elders Quorum for 10 guys. We're going to study the atonement of Jesus Christ. It's 40 minutes long, and it will, and then say, ask me questions. And it will just start asking you questions, and then it'll say, here's the prompt. So you don't even have to think if you don't want to.
So like, this is a really good hack. This is Anthropic that makes Claude their console. So if you go to like create a prompt, you still have to give it like context, but it will basically create a better prompt based off of like your kind of crappy one. And I don't think it's gonna work because I'm on like a hotspot, but that might not work. But know that it exists. Yeah, like that's a great point. Like
And you
use,
can also take one prompt, go to the other one, say, hey, evaluate this. Tell me how I can make this better, and it will.
yeah,
It will help you improve the prompt. And that's how I improved my Living Christ prompt.
yeah. And that like is a really great point. A lot of the stuff I've learned with AI is just asking AI, like, how do I use you better to like do these things? And it works really well. So like to give you an example of this, like write me an email about the project delay, right? That's what a lot of people will do. But if you say like, you are a project manager, communicates directly but empathetically, be honest about the situation while maintaining team morale, keep it under 150 words, don't assign blame. And like, yeah, something like to get this detailed, it's like, you kind of have to weigh like, does it make sense to write this whole thing out or just write the freaking email, right? Like,
I'll write the email and say,
yeah.
give me some pointers.
Yeah.
How can I make this clear? What's my tone? I want it to be casual with a little humor.
Totally.
And it will come back and say, here you go. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
You tweaked my email the way I want it.
Totally. And something that helps a lot with like, so you're not having to do this every single time is, this is not the thing I want. So like in Claude, for example, and it's the same case with like ChatGPT or really any that you use, you can create a specific project where like, okay, so like here's like my Elders Quorum Lessons one. So like it has memory, so it like remembers the past conversations we've had. I have like a very detailed prompt in here, like instructions on how to do this. And so like a lot of the time I'll say like, hey, I've been studying this, here's like my rough outline, like give me some ideas for like how to make it more like engaging or activities. And it already has the context in the project, so I'm not rewriting it again and again.
It's a good thing if you're an Elders Quorum teacher.
Yeah.
I mean, because it just kind of keeps the conversation going.
Totally. I think, okay, yeah, so we talked about Claude projects. I know we're like at time, so I want to open it up. Any pressing questions, comments?
I have one. It looks like then if you want to use AI, you have to download specific programs, correct? So if I don't have on my work computer already Claude, Chat, GPT,
Yeah.
or something, I have to download those to use them.
Yeah, so they have like a desktop version, or you can use it like in your browser. So like I think ChatGPT and Claude, like they do have free versions, but you'll typically hit like usage limits. So what I'd suggest is like, if you're just starting out, like go start playing around with it. And then if you like find yourself using it enough and like hitting limits, then maybe it does make sense to pay like the $20 a month or whatever.
I think ChatGPT is like
I-
20 questions.
I was just curious because like on work.
It's 20 questions a day. Yeah,
There's a free version.
yeah. Which when like you're just starting, that's like pretty good. So, yeah, good question. There are some things like if you download like the desktop version that have like different capabilities, but I think when you're first starting, like in the browser works great. Any other questions? What would be, like if we were to do like a level 200 course, what would be helpful for you guys to know?
I think there's settings behind the scenes that you can set. For instance,
Mhm.
you can create a profile.
Yeah,
You can tell them, here's who I am and here's what, and it will, and you can give it the boundaries in there, and then
Yeah.
you don't ever have to tell it, don't go to John DeLyn's website, right? Like, will just stay.
Yeah.
You can stay within a profile. You can also tell it into the 200 be like, do you want me to be mean or do you want me to be light?
Yeah.
Like you can tell what kind of personality you want. And there's other settings that if you set them up right, like it opens up even a bigger sphere. But that's, and to be honest, I asked it to help me create my profile. Like,
Yeah.
but it opens up, and then you don't have to always say, go to LDS.org. It's behind the scenes.
Yeah,
Good suggestion.
for sure. Any other?
Yeah, I would say actually building something, even if it's just like together. Like let's create something we can use.
Yeah.
And
For
maybe
the-
it's like the Covenant Forge information repository app,
Yeah.
right? Where, because we're recording the video, so we got to put it somewhere.
Yeah. I like that.
Or how do we as individuals excel in this, in the world,
Yeah.
with our families and with our, like financially or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
Yeah, with that more use cases type stuff, I just feel like I don't really know where to use it or what to do with it still. Like, I hear a few examples, but like,
Some
Yeah.
use cases I gave in my class just for real world, you can plan a trip.
Mhm.
Tell it where you want to go. I planned a guy's trip with my friends. We're going to a Yankees and a Boston Red Sox game. It told us what hotels to stay in, what we land in New York, what trains to take. We don't have to think, and we're going for 5 days, and it did. The other, I've given my wife, you can tell it what you have in the fridge and say, I have 30 minutes, I have 4 people to feed. Boom, you've got a meal.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it does that's what it does for my work, like, when I have state-to-state jobs, it's like, you can take this flight back home, and
Yeah.
breaks down the cost, to the point to where it even says, do you want me to go ahead and book this for you?
Yeah.
So it's.
There's a lot of.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
I would say throw out a Google Drive and everybody just throw out your prompts with what you've been doing.
Yeah.
I tried to do X
Mm-hmm.
and here's my prompt.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have like a bunch of prompts that I can share with you guys. Like, I think what's kind of tricky is like it totally depends on like what you do for work. Like, I have a ton of like very specific like killer prompts for things that you guys may not care at all about. Like, for a while I was doing like ghostwriting where I'd write on Twitter or LinkedIn for like founders. So I have a really crazy prompt on like, here's how to match someone's voice to sound like them, right? But like, you probably don't care about that. Like, so,
I don't care about moving stuff, to be honest.
yeah. I'm sorry, I can't remember your name in the blue. Austin, what do you do for work again? Remind me.
data analysis.
Okay. Yeah, so like, I haven't used it a ton for like data analysis, but like, yeah, like some potential use cases could just be like if you have large data sets and you're looking for like anomalies, or like, hey, go and find this in the data, or hey, I have a data set, like pick out the key insights for me, right?
What database or what?
Healthcare, unfortunately, which
Right.
makes it hard.
That's gonna make it a lot.
Yeah, okay, well,
Is your data in Snowflake? Is it Databricks? Is it SQL Server?
It's SQL databases kind of thing, Postgres, SQL Server. There's a couple different ones.
There's probably an AI bot already in that world
mhm.
that you can leverage. I use Databricks, and there's an AI, and I ask it all sorts of questions all day long. So
Yeah, I don't know. I need to figure out like a good way to do it and the safe ways to be able to actually
Yeah.
do it kind of thing.
yeah, don't put your social security number in any
Yeah.
of these. Or it remembers everything you ever tell it.
Right.
Yeah, and it becomes part of the LLM, the
Yeah.
base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that's like I would say like another word of caution is like, all of these companies have kind of like these fake like privacy policies that say like they won't share their data. but the infrastructure that they use on the back end of like their actual like data providers do not have any type, they do not have the same agreements. So like assume that everything you put in there is like probably being sold or has been sold to someone else. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and you can check with your employer to see how advanced they are, because they can host completely offline.
You
Setups.
you can't tell me that every corporation in America doesn't have an AI goal for 2026.
Mhm.
I mean, back in November, I went to a 2
Unfortunately,
3 hour
there are
meeting.
plenty that don't.
Yeah, but 3 hour meeting, like, here's what we're gonna do with AI this next year, and like, okay, it's the sexy thing.
Yeah. Like a couple things, if you guys are wanting to like accelerate your AI journey, like if you feel like you're kind of in like the middle between the tourist and like Claude Cowork came out like 2 weeks ago and is pretty crazy because it like can access files on your computer and like it basically is like plugs into the brain of your computer, which again you'd have to like, if you're working in healthcare, I wouldn't download this, but like, but yeah, it's pretty powerful and it like is more agentic in the sense that it can like, rather than you asking it like do this and having to prompt it at every turn, it can like create agents. So like really quick, I'll give you guys just like an example so you have like an idea of like a use case. I built like an entire marketing system for our company that it has all of our like company context and our audience members and everything you need to know about us. It has a bunch of skills, which I'm not sure if the other tools have this, but they're basically like prompt recipes that you can use again and again. And it will go and say like, okay, we're gonna go launch a new project. Use Perplexity to go research like the whole web for who's in this space. Like what's our competitive positioning, right? Like go scrape Reddit for actual questions that people are asking so that we can come up with like marketing messages. And then it will take the research and it has very specific prompts of like, here's what makes a good landing page. Here's some examples of good landing pages. Here's like a web scraper tool to go scrape this person's website. And so like, you can honestly get to a point where it's like, you build a system and you push a button and obviously like verify the outputs. Like it's not running completely by itself, but like, yeah, a lot of it just comes with trial and error. So, all right, should we eat? Thank you guys.
Thank you.